Grok scored 1402 on Chatbot Arena, and Claude doesn't even have a number out there to compete with. If you're running hundreds of API calls a day, that gap matters, and picking the wrong tool without knowing the actual cost difference is going to hurt. Both tools are moving fast right now, and the gap between them is widening in some areas, so I'm comparing Claude versus Grok across 5 tests, pulling only from verified sources and community benchmarks, nothing from either company's own marketing. What I didn't expect going in, the dimension that should be the easiest to compare, API pricing, turns out to be a complete black box for both tools, which means your budget planning is basically a guess right now. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. I go through the actual docs, the community benchmarks, and the real numbers so you can make a call without wading through all the noise yourself. You've probably heard both Claude and Grok are great at reasoning, so the real question is which one actually fits your workflow. A solo dev shipping features daily needs different things than a marketing team, monitoring brand sentiment across hundreds of posts, and that's exactly what these 5 tests are going to sort out. Test 1, reasoning accuracy and depth. A solo dev named Marcus is debugging a complex multi-step logic problem at 11 p.m. on a Friday, and his AI just confidently gives him the wrong answer. That one bad call can cost him hours in a production incident. So how granular your reasoning controls are matters a lot in that moment. What I found here is pretty interesting. Claude Opus 4.8 gives you 5 configurable effort levels capped at ultra code, while Grok 4.3 tops out at 4. And on complex task accuracy, Grok scored 7.8 versus Claude's 7.5. So Grok has a slight edge on logic puzzles. I'll be honest, that's closer than I expected. Before you call this one, the gap is 0.3 points on a scale where both tools are sitting in the high 7s, which is basically noise, and I couldn't find a Chatbot Arena score for Claude anywhere, so we're working with partial data here. The real difference is the type of problem, not raw score. This one's a tie. Claude's 5 effort levels versus Grok's 4 made me think it'd pull ahead on structured analysis, but Grok actually nudges ahead on logic puzzles, and the scores are too close to call overall, so the score stays at 0 to 0 with one test tied. Test 2, real-time information access. A brand manager named Sarah needs to track how a product launch is landing on social right now, not yesterday's data, right now. And if her AI tool is pulling from a knowledge cutoff instead of live feeds, she's making decisions on stale information. That's a real cost. What surprised me here is just how wide the gap is. Grok scored 9 to 9.5 across live data and breaking news tasks, while Claude came in at 5 and 4 respectively, and Grok's native X integration is literally baked into its architecture, while Claude's web search was added later. I looked at both, and this isn't even close. Grok takes this one, no contest. Native X integration versus a bolted-on search feature is just a different thing entirely, and Claude's web search closed way less of the gap than I thought it would. So Grok goes up 1 to 0 with one tie on the board. Test 3, response speed and latency. The number that should matter to you is 300 to 800 milliseconds per tool call on Claude code. And if you're running an automated pipeline with 50 tool calls in a sequence, that latency stacks up fast, and your users start noticing. Speed isn't just a nice to have when you're at scale. This one was frustrating to look at. Grok has a community reported throughput of around 1256 tokens per second, which sounds impressive, but I couldn't find an official figure from XAI to back it up, and I couldn't find a published throughput number for Claude at all. The only concrete data point is Claude Code's 300 to 800 millisecond tool call latency, which is specific to that one context. Speed is a tie. Neither company gives you a full apples-to-apples figure, so the data just isn't comparable and the score stays Grok 1, Claude 0, now 2 tests tied. 2 tests left, and the next one is where the tools stop being about performance and start being about whether your outputs can actually go out the door without heavy editing. So if you work in enterprise or regulated industries, this next test is the one that decides it for you. Test 4, content moderation philosophy. You've probably heard both tools handle sensitive topics differently, but what that actually costs in practice is real. Grok 3's outputs are described as acerbic and opinionated, which means a corporate comms team can spend serious time editing before anything goes out. That's not a vibe difference, that's real hours. What I found is that these two tools are genuinely operating from different philosophies, not just different settings. Claude follows Anthropic's strict acceptable use policy, flags or avoids controversial topics, and aims for safe, consistent outputs, while Grok leans into a rebellious streak, engages directly with edgy topics, and is sharper and more opinionated by design. Neither is wrong, they're just built for different contexts. No winner here, it's a genuine, philosophical split, not a performance gap. So 3 tests, tied now, and Grok still leads 1-0 overall. Test 5, API pricing and cost per token. A product manager trying to budget for 10 million tokens a month across a team has to make a call right now. And neither Claude nor Grok has a clear API price anywhere I could find. That's not a minor gap. That's a blocker for anyone trying to run unit economics on their AI spend. I looked hard for a published per token price for both tools, and I couldn't find one for either Claude or Grok in any of the sources I pulled. No API pricing, no subscription cost breakdown, nothing. And that's genuinely frustrating because pricing is the number one thing people ask about when picking between these two. Pricing is a tie by default, and honestly not a good one. Both tools are a black box on cost, so 4 tests tied now and the final score is Grok 1, Claude 0, 4 tied. Alright, so here's where Claude clearly wins. You get 5 reasoning effort levels versus Grok's 4, which gives you more granular control on complex tasks, and Claude's strict policy-aligned moderation makes it the safer pick for enterprise outputs, where deep, structured analysis needs to go out the door without heavy editing. Now, here's where Grok clearly wins. Native X integration for breaking news and real-time sentiment is just not something Claude can match right now. Community-reported throughput of around 1256 tokens per second is fast, and if you need an opinionated direct voice for creative or controversial content, Grok's rebellious style is actually a feature, not a bug. Going in, I thought pricing would be the deciding factor, but neither Claude nor Grok will even give you a number, so that whole dimension is a wash. The decision rule is pretty simple. If you need real-time X data, live sentiment, or breaking news awareness, go Grok, and if you need structured, policy-safe outputs for enterprise or deep analysis, go Claude. 1 win, 4 ties. That's the real story. I ran Claude up against GPT-4o next, and the reasoning gap actually flips in a couple of spots, which I didn't see coming at all, and that one's already on the channel if you want to see where Claude's 5 effort levels finally pull ahead of the competition.